Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Rim Shots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk right here on the Rock Rage Radio Network. And hey, we have a gentleman here. It's funny. Through the wonders of technology, he's in California. I'm in Eastern Canada. Razz Reynolds, the Roaming Hillbilly. How are you, sir?
That's me. I'm fantastic, Sean. Good to be with you, brother. I appreciate
All
you
right.
having me on.
So you said you're in and around the Fresno, California area. Are you born and bred Californian?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the coast of California. That's
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
So tell us about the Roaming Hillbilly.
Well, I'm fortunate to be able to go around and play hillbilly music at rodeos all over the West. So I've just kicked off my ninth season, and I
Wow.
do about 20, 25 rodeos a year. And I just roam around the West in my hillbilly truck camper, sharing joy, playing my guitar. Got my guitar right here with me. We'll play a song if you want.
Yeah, strum us a little tune, Raz.
Just sharing, just sharing joy, it's stuff like, Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars and drive them old trucks. Make them be doctors and lawyers and such.
There you go. And who doesn't like a little Willie Nelson, right?
I know. Yeah.
He's
So yes, I do this full time. Like I said, I've just kicked off my ninth season, and I just get to go around play music at all these rodeos. And I tell people I do two things with my life. I'm a traveling musical entertainer, and then secondly, I'm an online content creator. So the big thing to share with your audience is if you want to learn more about the Roaming Hillbilly after you watch this, go to my Hillbilly YouTube channel. And you'll be able to see all my daily episodes on tour. Last year I had 95 days on tour, and there's an episode for every day already up on the Hillbilly YouTube channel.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I'm a drummer, but I'm also a content creator who has a podcast, so I understand the ins and outs of that. I understand the amount of work. It's a very common thing for somebody to not necessarily say, but think, oh my God, he's doing it. It must be easy. They try to do something like that. It has very little shelf life because you do realize that it's a lot of work and sometimes for not a lot of reward. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's a very, very good point, because my social media, I basically started my social media content creation back when I started the Roaming Hillbilly. So it's specifically on Instagram. So I have over 1,700 posts on Instagram. And it started out by just capturing content at all these rodeos. And then it grew because I bought my truck camper back in 2021. And so half of my content is at the rodeo, obviously. People take, like on my guitar, it says, let's take a selfie. I get so many people taking, pictures and tagging me, and I tag them, pictures and videos. So as a part of your question is, like, as a content creator, if you can get other people to help you create your content around what it is you do, that's a pretty cool thing. And I think I figured out how to do that by, having people take pictures with me at the rodeos. In fact, I will tell you, Sean, because I've been doing this so long, and rodeos are annual events. So like, for instance, last month, I kicked off the tour at the Tucson Rodeo. It was their 100th annual. So local people go to these rodeos. Same people go to the rodeos pretty much every year. I mean, new people come and whatnot. And so now people come and look for me at the rodeos that I'm always at, and looking to take a picture with me. So it's, if you can figure out how to get other folks to create content for you, that's a pretty beautiful thing,
Well, that's an important point, because that takes you out of, I guess, just a guy that shows up looking for content, and that moves you kind of into the brand category and into brand awareness, which is really that and I know, but anybody that doesn't know, to become a brand is very difficult. I mean, you can say you're a brand, but
Right.
A brand, there's a whole bunch of things to it. There's recognition, there's consistency, there's relatability, there's firepower in terms of being able to move product. So I mean, that to me is very cool. Here's something and maybe you have it in the works, I don't know. As we're talking, I'm thinking, man, you would translate amazing to TV, to some sort of a documentary, or any thoughts of that?
Well, thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
I already have the pitch package figured out or written up for my Hillbilly docuseries. And So let me talk a little bit more about the second half of what I do, this online content creation. So, and again, if you go to my Hillbilly YouTube channel, you'll see all of this in these daily episodes. So I went to the Tucson Rodeo last month. I slow roll all my travels in my Hillbilly truck camper. So I don't travel more than 4 or 5 hours a day, and I look for cool places to camp, cool places, gorges and lakes and rivers and creeks. And I just slow roll to that destination, set up my Hillbilly camper, and I'm capturing moments all along the way, right? And mostly posting on my Instagram story. But all those little clips of my daily adventure leading up to that campsite, and then the next day I get up and I go to the next campsite, and ultimately I end up at the Tucson Rodeo, and then there's all this content for the Tucson Rodeo. It's the day in the life with the Roaming Hillbilly. And I'm already doing that. It's already all created. And what I did a couple of years back was I decided to start moving more of it to YouTube, on my YouTube channel versus just on Instagram, just so because you can do like 4 to 6 minute videos, right?
Yep.
So I appreciate you asking the question. And if anybody wants to fund my pilot episode, I'll send you the pitch pack and we'll get going on it.
Well, and I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of reality TV. I mean, really, the only
Okay.
reality TV that I watched was Ex-Wives of Rock. I don't know if you remember that one, but
Yeah.
this is something I would watch because to me it's interesting.
Yeah.
I like the whole nomadic kind of move around the countryside. You wouldn't get it from me, but I've had friends that were involved in rodeo, and I love that. I think it would be a winner
Yeah.
chicken dinner to me, my friend.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah. And part of my, we kicked off my big hillbilly publicity campaign this year, and part of it is just getting out and telling that story, because I'm telling the story. I'm sharing my life, which is the story, and I do it full time. I'm blessed to be able to do it full time, and I'm almost up to about 10,000 followers on Instagram now, and people give me positive reinforcement every day in terms of they love living vicariously through me, seeing the
Absolutely.
places I get to go, and it's just people seem to be interested in it. So again, I'm blessed.
Well, social media is such a funny thing because I was playing St. Patty's Day, and there was a gal that was at the bar that I was playing at, and she says, how many followers do you have on Facebook?" And I said, "I don't know, about 30,000 or something." She goes, "Well, I got 15,000 on Instagram." And I'm like, "Okay." And I looked at her thing, and it was like she had 15,000 people that checked the box. She didn't have 15,000 people that were tuning in.
I hear you,
And,
brother. I hear you
right,
on
and
that.
you know what exactly where I'm going with that,
I
right? I
do.
mean, it's a constant grind. It's a constant hustle. They always talk about your first 1,000 and getting your first 1,000. Are your folks super active? Or do they tune in on a regular basis?
I think the thing that I'm most proud about is I have, so I post on Instagram stories daily, 10 to
Nice.
15 posts. And again, it's just my life. I get up in the morning and I'm creating content. So I post something about that. And on my Instagram story, I have 100, 150 people looking at every single story every single day. And so, yeah, I feel like I have, and I totally get what you mean about like, my previous social media manager, she was like, dude, everybody has, 30% spam in terms of their follower or more, maybe,
Yeah,
because we're all looking for the organic follower. But the beauty of my life, in terms of, sharing joy. And by the way, that's my life emotion right there. I get to
love it.
share joy
Love it.
and and I get to connect with folks at the rodeos, and I see them year over year. So they're all, and since I'm so grounded in that rodeo culture and community, which is just all good people, by the way. If anybody who's watching this that doesn't know about rodeo, to me, ultimately, it's about community. That's what rodeo is about. And so those people actively follow me on a regular basis because we're all kind of in this much larger rodeo community.
So you mentioned organic growth. I had a conversation with a gentleman. He's a friend of mine. I interviewed him last night. He does a lot of stuff in movie and TV, and he brought up, organic growth is kind of a myth. However, you would be, I think, the
Hmm.
closest to it. Here's his theory. His theory is basically everybody some way somehow pays for growth, pays for followers. It might not be cash, but because the truth form of or the meaning of organic growth is you do a post and I like it and I tell two friends and it's like the Pert commercial, right? It's so on
Yeah,
and so on and so. Um,
I see.
Dating myself a little bit. I do think though you're probably as close to it as the organic growth term could be in what you're doing because you're out there in the people's faces, you're talking to them, you're interacting with them, they're seeing you, they're having. So I mean that's a pretty good testament.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It seems to be working, and yeah, the whole now my goal, my goal is to expand. I feel like I'm 8 years in, and now I just want to be able to. I'm trying to get out and publicize it more and get the story out to a much larger audience. So we're really focused on that this year, and my new hillbilly publicist, Miss Raquel, is a part of that, and
I know her well, man.
yeah, I know you do. She talks highly of you. So, it's we're going to try to get it, take it to the next level this year, basically.
Yeah. No, she's a go getter. There's no question. And as you know, as a Canadian who absolutely loves Americans, so I don't know what you're hearing down there about the fact that we up here don't like Americans, but it's not true, and I know it's vice versa, not true.
Right.
Um,
Right.
uh, do you have seasons for your camping? Can you go 365? Like, can you go every day? Is the weather that good to you that you can do that?
Yeah, great question. So my tour starts in February, and last 3 years started at the Tucson Rodeo, and I go all the way to October, and I end at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, which is an iconic
Is it ever?
place. Have you heard of it?
100%, my friend. That's an
Okay.
iconic building.
Right, especially from a musician's perspective.
Yeah.
I'll tell you an interesting story about that. Not to get off track, but in 2020 when COVID hit and everything shut down, I end my like I said, I end my tour every year at the Cow Palace, and they decided they were going to do a virtual rodeo. So they were going to go to their stock conference, show cowboys riding broncs and bulls, and they asked some of their entertainers and whatnot to contribute video content for this virtual rodeo, right? Well, I had already started to produce my very first Hillbilly YouTube series, and there's a whole nother story about that. But so I already had my video production guys already lined up. We were already shooting videos leading up to the end of the 2020 in October. So I was all ready to go. So I told the CEO of the Cow Palace, I'm in. And I was like, if you give me access to the Cow Palace, I'll have some great behind the scenes, the Hillbilly get behind the scenes tour of the Cow Palace. They said, sure. So they opened up the Cow Palace for the old
Brilliant.
Hillbilly and let me in with my
Brilliant.
video crew. So we did this great shot, and then one of the scenes was we were in the ticket sales booth back there, and the folklore is any act that came through the Cow Palace, Elvis, the Beatles, Van Halen, all those guys, it was in their contract that they had to sign the wall in the ticket booth.
Mm.
So I went in that room, showing in my video, and of course, I didn't have the boss asses, but my video producer said, "Hey, can the Roaming Hillbilly sign that wall?" And the guy said, "Sure." So, dude,
Absolutely.
I signed the wall of fame, they call it, at the Cow Palace, two signatures down from Neil Diamond.
That's incredible.
Is that
Uh,
cool?
it's very cool. I mean, it's very cool, and rightly so, man. I mean, you're part of the show there. Why wouldn't you sign it?
Yeah.
Um, so up here in Canada, we have a thing. It's called the Busker Festival, and basically what it is, it's performers, street performers. It could be jugglers, it could be comedians, it could be musicians, and they get paid by going out and doing their thing on the street and tips and all that stuff. Is that by and large how you earn your keep, or how does it work for you?
No, so the rodeos pay me to
Yep.
come, and yeah, they cover my expenses. They pay for my diesel. So I mean, again, it's another one of my joys is that they pay me to come, and then I get to travel around the country and see all these great places. And there's a spiritual aspect of me too, which is I'm all about the present moment.
Yep.
And so when I'm on the road, I'm so this is kind of a cool thing about my namesake is that how I entertain at the rodeos is I just roam around with my guitar singing songs. I call it giving personal concerts. I'm not standing on the stage.
Yep.
I'm with the crowd when people come out to buy hats and beer and food in between watching the rodeo in the arena. I'm giving them a personal concert, right? So I'm roaming around the rodeo grounds, hence the name,
Yep.
right? Entertaining. But I also, my truck camper, I'm roaming the roads of America to and from these rodeos. And the rodeos pay me to come, so all my costs are covered, basically.
Well, that's incredible. There years and years and years ago in the old city of Quebec in the province of Quebec up here in Canada, there was a gentleman who used to play trumpet at NHL games for the old
Ah,
Quebec Nordiques. He got so popular that rinks would go and say, "We want you to come to Toronto. We want you to come to Vancouver." He even went down to Boston, and he got paid the same way. They would bring him there. They would pay him, and and I remember somebody going, "Geez, man, that's kind of it's not a real job." You know what? It's the best job you can have because you're doing something you love. And really, and I know this because I'm a musician. The amount of world that I get to see because I get to go play places, people just can't wrap their head around unless they've done it.
that's right. Yeah, we're fortunate in that in that regard in terms of sharing music basically.
Well, I mean, I get to play in Dublin, Ireland last summer. I'm going to play in
Wow.
Cuba in 2 weeks.
Wow, that's
You know what I
great.
mean? Yeah, and I mean there's worse things that could happen. So it's when the bankers there are sitting there looking down his nose at me because my hair's a little longer and my beard's scruffy. Oh well,
Yeah.
whatever. I get to do something that's fun. I guess you're in the heat of it now. You're out there doing this thing right now. The season's on.
Yep.
What do you got upcoming in the next few weeks?
Yeah, so we were March, a little break in the tour, but starting in April, the first weekend in April, it's kind of the thick of my tour because I go 8 rodeos in 7 weekends.
Oh wow.
And so most rodeos are, 2, 3 days. The bigger ones are longer, but like Tucson 6 days. But most rodeos are all over the weekend, basically. So and all of those rodeos upcoming, they're all kind of California based, Northern California, Middle and Southern California to a certain extent. So I'm going to be doing that, through the middle of April, like middle of May, and then I got a weekend or two of break.
Well, and I mean, I would have to say it's working out pretty good for you because what I see behind you there, that house looks very, very cool. Is that a wood stove that I'm seeing there?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, I'm blessed to be able to live out here. And so this little town I live in is called Raymond, California. It's population 1424 plus one hillbilly. Me, 300-acre ranch right behind me, cattle ranch. And now I don't own it, but I have this three bedroom, 2 bath house. And if you ever want to come to Yosemite, I'm 45 minutes from the south gate of Yosemite.
oh, wow.
Give me a holler. Sean, I'll hook you up. You stay at the ranch house if you want. You
Well,
know,
I tell you, I don't know if do you have horses there?
there's definitely horses on the property here.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Uh, Stick an
Yeah.
asterisk at that off screen. I'll talk to you about that.
Okay.
Last question, my friend, because attention spans, as we know, are brutally, brutally, brutally short. You
Yeah.
mentioned your Instagram. How do people look you up? How do they find you? How do they find? Is there a way that they can buy merch? Where do they go?
Yeah. So if you can just Google the Roaming Hillbilly.
Yeah,
So the Roaming Hillbilly, and here the best place to look me up is right here, the Hillbilly YouTube channel.
love it.
You scan that and you'll get me from there. If you want to follow me on a daily basis, then on Instagram, my Instagram story, and it's also the Roaming Hillbilly.
I'm going to go and sign up for all those once we're done here. Uh,
Appreciate it.
Razz Reynolds. I mean that you're either going to be a roaming hillbilly or some sort of rock star with a name like that, man. It's money in the bank. I want to
Yes,
thank you for doing this. Absolute pleasure meeting you, my friend. And yeah,
thanks, Sean.
I anticipate you and I will be talking again soon.
All right, brother. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah. See ya.